Assalamu alaikum. That is, may God's peace be with you. We'd like to welcome you to another segment of Al Islam Worldwide Ministry Presents. As always, we like to begin with prayer. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Ameen. And the translation from Abdullah Yusuf Ali's translation is, with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. All praise belongs to God, the cherisher and sustainer of all the systems of knowledge, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Soul master on the day of judgment, thee alone do we worship, and thee alone do we seek for aid and assistance. Guide us along the path that is straight, the path of those whom thou hast bestowed thy favors and thy grace, not the path of those who have earned your displeasure, nor of those who go astray. Ameen. God the Mighty spoke the truth. I've read from chapter 1 of the Quran, Al-Fatiha, the opening. Now let me make a disclaimer up front. Well, not a disclaimer, but a in-house housekeeping message, as I like to do because of our technical difficulties we've had, weather-related. Now we still have, and we're happy in Jacksonville now, so this is not bad news. I don't like to say bad weather. Circumstances. This is good weather for us, a lot of rain. So we've been having a lot of rain and a lot of overcast. So if we, by chance, or perhaps get cut off like we did last week, and so many of you, I saw you came, you watched the post, so we will do the same thing. We will record it, so you won't miss anything. So if we get cut off from the live feed, then we will do what we did last week. We will record it, and we will post it up. Also, I want to inform you that we have added some new content to our YouTube channel. We also have YouTube channel, Al Islam Worldwide Ministry. That's on YouTube. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see some more of our programming, some new programming that we have added. So I want to welcome all of you all, Christian brothers and sisters, family members, friends, co-workers, Jewish brothers and sisters, family members, co-workers. We say to the Muslim brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. To our Christian brothers and sisters, peace be with you. To our Jewish brothers and sisters, shalom. And as always, I have my guest here, Ahmed MAJID, with us again. Assalamu alaikum, my friend. And our young adult who joined us, made his debut last week. And I've had people asking me, well, who was that young man you had on the end there? This is our brother Cam Nelson. Assalamu alaikum, Cam, and welcome back.
Walaikum salam. Happy to be here.
Thank you, sir. And of course, we have our dear sister, LAZETTE SALEEM. Welcome back, LAZETTE.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
And sister TERESA, who happens to be the mother of Cam. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome again.
Thank you.
And thank all of you all. And we're going to get right to it. Now, we're going to, this program we're having, or this segment, is a follow-up or part 2 to what we had last week. And let me tell you something now. We got an overwhelming response to this topic of discussion, the Quran and the Constitution of the United States of America. So this is going to be part 2, and if we don't finish all of the ideas, and I know we want, so we're going to run this course or this segment for maybe a few weeks until we cover the major issues as it pertains to the United States Constitution and the Quran, because a lot of people were pleasantly surprised and some just shocked and startled that the comparisons between the Quran, Al-Islam, and the U.S. Constitution, you all didn't know, and some of the things that, as I said when I was researching it, I found out was amazing to me. So tonight we're going to start with the person that was last week that we didn't get to, and that's my friend Ahmed MAJID. So Ahmed, you get the first question tonight.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Brother Imam, we talk about the Declaration of Independence, and in last week And in the Declaration, it speaks up that all men was created equal.
Mm-hmm.
What does the Quran and Prophet Muhammad says on that about equality of mankind?
Okay. All right. His question, if you all didn't hear the question, was in the Declaration of Independence that I read last week, and I will read part of that. Well, I'll read it tonight. And his question is about the equality of mankind, and what did the Quran teach, and what did Prophet Muhammad say? Thank you for that question. So we'll go first to the Declaration of Independence, and I'll repeat it, read what I read last week. And this is on page 1. This is my pocket constitution. You all saw this last week, okay? And in the Declaration, it says, let's turn to it here. I had the page mark. We hold these truths, this is on page 35. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And that's the part that you're asking about. So I'm going to read the whole part of it. That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, which Teresa asked about last week. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's the short version. And you want to know, what does the Quran say about equality? So let's go to the Quran. And it says quite a bit, Ahmed. So, of course, we don't have all night to go through all of it. So, in chapter 21 of the Quran, Al-Anbiya, the prophets, and verse 109. And it says, with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَقُلْ آذَنْتُكُمْ عَلَى سَوَاءٍ وَإِنْ أَدْرِي أَقَرِيبٌ أَمْ بَعِيدٌ مَا تُوعَدُونَ. But if they turn back, say, so God told Prophet Muhammad, I have called you all on the basis of equality. Sawa'un. But I know not whether that which you are promised is near or far. So here God revealed to Muhammad the prophet in chapter 21, verse 109, that all people, this is all people. He didn't say I call the Arabs, or I call the Pakistanis, or I call the Africans. No. Adhantukum. I call you all. You hear the word adhantukum. And you all who don't know, the adhan is the call to prayer. It's the beautiful melodic sound you hear when you travel throughout the Middle East, or maybe what they call the Muslim world in Abu Dhabi or Dubai or Qatar or some places, and you will hear them make the adhan, the call to prayer. And so God revealed to the prophet, say, call all people. Adhantukum ala siwa. Siwa means equal. Yeah, it means sameness, equality, equal, and it has a meaning of balance. But in the context of equality, God is saying to the Prophet Muhammad, all people are created equal, so invite them and call them on the basis of equality. So hence, for us as Muslims, and it's a big issue now, you know this, and we all know this because we keep up with what's going on now. This issue of racism and racist language and racist tweets. You know, I think that's all I need to say about that. Well, the Quran and Al-Islam is against racism. See? So God told the prophet, no, call all the people on the basis of equality. Don't separate the people based on skin color, based on tone. And then you hear this language is coming back, and I thought the language had dissipated over the years. You know, black, brown, white, and people identifying each other with like elementary children in elementary school, pre-K. Because they teach the pre-K children. This is brown, this is black, this is white. Because they can't understand concepts, human concepts. So we have all these adult people, and I'm watching the news, and I'm saying, now these are grown people talking like kindergartners, identifying people by skin color, which is only skin deep. Because once you cut past that skin, I don't care what color the skin tone is, the color for everybody is red, blood red for everybody. So God said to the prophet, call them all on the basis of equality. And you ask about Prophet Muhammad, and I'll read another verse for you. The prophet, prayers and peace be upon him, when Islam started, before Islam, Islamic days. They call it pre-Islam. The Arabs of that time were very racist and biased, a lot of them. And they had what we would call slaves, servants. Some of them they treated well, some they didn't. Now, it wasn't like chattel slavery in America. Nobody had this system that our ancestors went through. So we have to be fair now. But they classified people based on skin color. It's almost like the caste system in India. See, where they based on skin color, your status and how far you will make progress in society based on the texture of your skin. The darker you are, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. The lighter you are, no, this is the Indian caste system. Yeah. So the prophet, he said, when he became the prophet, he said, all, now they use this language, men, but it means all people, are equal like the teeth of a comb. See? So if you got a comb that has even teeth in it, that's what the prophet, he compared all people, all the teeth are even. So nobody has superiority. In his last sermon, the historic last sermon, they call it the last khutbah, the prophet is reported to have said, peace and blessing be upon the prophet, there is no Arab superiority. You know this, over a non-Arab. There is no black superiority over a non-black. My black nationalist brothers, so that's for you. There is no white superiority over a non-white. You are all the children of Adam, and Adam was made from dust. So the prophet taught this basis of equality, following the Quran. God said, call you all on the basis of equality. And then he gave the analogy of all people being equal like the teeth of the comb. And then he said, there's no superiority. Just because of your ethnicity, just because of our color, just because of our traditions, there's no superiority there. Now, the next, that leads me right to the next chapter, chapter 49, verse 13, on this question of equality. So Allah again revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. God the Mighty spoke the truth. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Now this is chapter 49, verse 13, Ahmed. O mankind, we created all of you from the single pairing of a male and a female. Now, I put emphasis on that. I'm conscious of the culture we live in. Male and female. And made you into different nations and different tribes that you may get to know each other. See? Not that you may hate or despise each other. Now look, verily the most honorable among all of you in the sight of God is the one who's the most righteous of you. So that's how God makes the distinction. Yeah. So there's no inequality in superiority and inferiority based on your background, based on your ethnic group, based on your skin color. No. God told Prophet Muhammad. Now imagine the people in that day and time that I talked about, pre-Islamic Arabia, that had these racial and prejudicial hang-ups. And God revealed it. Now this is 1,400 years old. And then it's surprising and shameful in some ways. This is the 21st century. We're living in the age of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, YouTube, Google, the internet, and on and on and on. And people are still back there in the 7th century in their thinking. And God addressed it back then. So now I have to read this in 2019 to talk about something that God addressed in 1,400 years ago. And people ought to be ashamed of themselves. So God says the most honorable in the sight of God is the one who's most righteous of you. And God has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. So really what distinguishes us is in the word here is atkakum, is God consciousness. So that's how God does it now. He makes the judgment, and his judgment is the best. To say, well, you all can claim whatever superiority you want. But in my eyes, God's eyes, your righteousness is what makes the distinct difference. Not your skin color, not even the texture of your hair. You remember when we were going to school, we had people say, you got good hair. What's that? Who had bad hair? Who determined that hair was bad and hair was good? Which hair was bad and which hair was good? You see, God didn't say that. As a matter of fact, Allah says in the Quran, still your question of equality, God says, it is he that gives you your suwarakum. And he made it asana suwarakum. He give you your shapes and your forms, and he, God, made it excellent. So, can you imagine we growing up, you know, nappy head's bad, big lips, dark skin. Somebody told us these things. God didn't tell us that. God said, no, I made your shapes, I made your colors, and I made them the way. And I'll conclude on your question with this. You know, I was asked these questions many times over the years when I would go and speak in public lectures and sessions, particularly during African American History Month. And sometimes I'd be speaking to European American audiences, and well-informed, well-educated audiences, universities, synagogues, churches, right, in Dallas. And then I would ask them this question. I said, well, you know, I have a question. You all ask a question, I have one. When did God ask us our opinion about which ethnic group we wanted to be in when he created us? God never asked us our opinion. So it's presumptuous and really arrogant to dislike a person, hate a person because of the difference in their skin color, the texture of their hair, the ethnicity, the cultural background. This is childish and it's arrogant and it's very immature because God never asked us our opinion about who he should create and what ethnic group he should place them in. Never asked us that. So if we claim we're believers in God, now you notice how I phrase that now. If we claim, you make claims all day, but if we claim, and I'm speaking to the audience out here now, you claim you believers in God, accept God's creation because he never asked us our opinion in the first place. So thank you very much for that. And there's much more I can say on that, but we have others that would like to ask, but I appreciate that question.
Thank you.
So, Teresa, you get the second question.
Yes. Last week I asked about unalienable rights.
Yes.
That's mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. My question is, does the Quran have any reference to the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness?
Okay. So her question is this. It's a follow-up from last week, like Ahmed, which he didn't get a chance to ask his question. It all pertains to the Declaration of Independence, which is part of the Constitution. And she asked last week about unalienable rights, which we addressed that last week. So her question is there any reference in the Quran regarding the rest of what is said in the Declaration about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Those are three separate, distinct ideas. Life, liberty, which is freedom, and the pursuit of happiness. So let's go again to the Quran. And we'll take the first one, Teresa. Life. So in chapter 2, verse 28 of the Quran, God revealed to Muhammad the Prophet, praise and peace be upon the Prophet. كيف تكفرون بالله وكنتم أمواتا فأحياكم. That's the word for life. Like حيا أحياكم. ثم يميتكم ثم يحييكم ثم إليه ترجعون. How can you reject faith in God, seeing that you were without life? No life without God. And it is he that gave you life. So the Quran, and we talked about last week, and those of y'all who may be joining us for the first time Thomas Jefferson's Quran, Islam and the Founders by Denise Spellberg. And she talked about how Thomas Jefferson in 1765, 11 years before composing the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson had bought a Quran. So if he had a Quran, he read verse 28 that says, how can you reject faith in God, seeing that you were without life? So he included life as one of those unalienable rights. God says, seeing that you were without life, and he, God, gave you life, then will he cause you to die, and will again bring you back to life. So this is the belief that most of the monotheistic religions, monotheistic meaning belief in one God, the great religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Al-Islam, and others, that we will have a life, we believe in life after death, and we will have a life after this. So God says, he gave you life, will cause you to die, and he will bring you to life, and again to him will you return. So that's one reference. And in fact, there are so many references for life in the Quran. I could spend, honestly, I'm not exaggerating, I could spend a whole month of programs just discussing YAHYA. Now, you know, YAHYA is in the Adhan. Adhan takum ala suwa. So I call you upon the basis of equality, and I call you all equally life. And how's the call? Hayya ala salat. That's part of the call, isn't it?
Yes.
Come lively to worship. But listen to the second part of it. Hayya ala falah. Come lively to success, progress, prosperity. That's it. And who is it called to? To all people equally. No race over another. And that means economically too now. God, all the resources out of God put out there for everybody. He said, I call y'all equally. And God says in the Quran, the material world is, the material life is open to everybody. So this is one reference to the concept in the Declaration of Independence. Now the second one, chapter 5, verse 32. And we have read this one before on the program in another context, but in the context of the questions, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, so chapter 5, verse 32. And for the sake of time, I will read this, Teresa, in English, but I will reference the portion on life. So God says, on that account, we ordained for the children of Israel, not Israel, Israel. These were the children of Israel that were in Egypt, Bani Israel, the Hebrews, and it could apply to some of them today. But the specific reference is to the people in Moses' time for this incident. On that account, we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone killed a person, now we're talking about the right to life now. And I was watching the earlier part of the day, latter part of this day on the news, that the United States federal government court system is reinstituting the federal death penalty for murder and taking someone's life. Now, let's see what the Quran says now. On that account, we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone kill a person, unless it be for murder, now that's the justice system doing this, or for spreading mischief in the land, it would be as if you killed the whole of mankind. And if anyone saved the life, وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا, that's the life again. فَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. If anyone saved one life, it would be as if you saved the life of all of mankind. So this idea finds its way into the Declaration of Independence. that people have the inherent right to life. And we have no right, as the Quran says here, and this leads to the justice system we have in America, on the federal level, on the state level. You don't take people's lives. And God says in another portion of the Quran, do not take life except for justice. But when any time the word justice is mentioned, that means judges. That's typically what it means. Justice, judges, okay? Or now in Florida, this has been abused. But it's a law in Florida. Stand your ground. Now we know how that has been abused in the state of Florida, where this is not in a court system. These are citizens in this society. So, and the Second Amendment now to the Constitution give us all what? The right to bear arms. Now, everybody in America knows the Second Amendment. They may not know the first one, but they know the second one. Everybody know that. I have the right to bear arms. Say, well, what's the first freedom? You know, asked this last week. What do you mean the first freedom? Bear arms. Everything is to bear arms. No. The first freedom is the freedom of religion. So, but we have the right to defend ourselves. That's what I'm leading to. So if our lives, God forbid, are endangered, we don't need a court. How you going to get to the court? No, you take care of that yourself. See, that's justice. Is to sit. Now, in that case, you're doing what? Saving your life. Okay? And I have one more, Teresa, on the concept of life. All right? Chapter 90, verse 2. And if I don't get to all of your questions, liberty, pursuit of happiness, because these things are detailed in the Quran now. So we'll table some of it till next week. So let's go chapter 90, verse 2. And we still on life. Haven't addressed liberty and happiness yet. Okay, chapter 90, verse 2. The right. Well, actually, this one does take us. I'm reflecting now. This one takes us, so we'll get 1 point here for liberty. Okay, this one takes us to liberty. And I'll give you a reference. We may address it next week because it's your question. So, right, chapter 7, verse 157. Now, it's a longer verse, so I'm going to give you the short verse tonight on liberty. And then probably, God willing, next week we'll address the second. So, in verse 2, now this is chapter 90 called Al-Balad, the town, the city, or the nation. La uqsimu bihadha al-balad. I do call to witness this nation, this city, this country, this land. Now, we're referencing the United States Constitution. So these are the laws and principles, values that we live by in America. And we are showing the connection and the relationship between the Quran and the United States Constitution. Verse 2, life, liberty. وَأَنْتَ هِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. And you are a free person. What they say, man, but I'm reading Arabic. You're a free person because we have sisters sitting here, right? So even though a lot of these things, when they write man, they mean mankind. Yeah, we understand mankind. But I'm being politically correct now. I don't mind saying, because I understand that's what it's referencing. Males and females, men and women. So yes, وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. It's referring to Prophet Muhammad because it's in the masculine tense. وَأَنْتَ, not anti. وَأَنْتَ. But the principle is liberty, freedom. Hilum is the principle. See? So God revealed to Muhammad the prophet, you're free to express yourself. You have inherent liberty. Remember, that's one of the inalienable rights, unalienable rights, inherent rights that God has created every human being with freedom and liberty. As they say, freedom and liberty and justice for all. Well, it hadn't always been liberty and justice for all. It's been liberty and justice for some. We'll get to that down the road. But liberty, and I remember when I was in high school here in Jacksonville, Florida, graduated from New Stanton High School, this word liberty, you know when I was first introduced to this word liberty, I wasn't a Muslim. And I had to make a presentation I'll never forget this. In my civics class at New Stanton High School here in Jacksonville, 17 years old maybe, and my civics teacher, she gave me the role of Patrick Henry, okay? And I had to play the part of Patrick Henry in my class. And I don't know where I got this from, but I put real emphasis on the last part of what Patrick Henry said, right? Give me liberty or give me death. Now at the time I didn't know I was going to be a Muslim, and those words would have real deep meaning for me. But those are the words that I was introduced to, that word liberty, by performing the role of Patrick Henry in my high school civic class. All right, that God has given us. But again, remember Thomas Jefferson, 11 years before they wrote the Declaration of Independence, bought him a Quran and read it. And he wasn't the only one. There were other founding fathers also that had copies of the Quran. So they studied the Quran. And so it's no accident that we find, and when we get to chapter 7, verse 157, perhaps next week, on liberty. And but this verse in the Quran, وَأَنْتَ حِلُّمْ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ, you are a free citizen of this entire earth. Not just the United States of America, not just Jacksonville, Florida, or New York, or Chicago, or Cali. No, or Philadelphia. God said we are free wherever we go on this earth. And you know what a freedom is? It should be in the mind, in the intellect. And many of our ancestors, even though they were put in chains and put on slave ships, they remained free in their mind. And some of them, many of them were Muslims too. So that's my quick answer to liberty. All right, and we'll pick it up next week, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so number 3. And we have approximately 10 minutes left. So
Okay.
Cam?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Okay, my question is, can you elaborate on whether or not the Muslims are trying to establish or force Sharia law on the USA?
Okay, so now Cam asked us this question last week. Well, part of the question last week was, what is Sharia? And I explained that Sharia wa minhaj. So his follow-up question is, and interesting enough, now we're current. And when I say we're current events, we're addressing current events. And really, the subject matter that we're discussing is in the news. So again, I'm watching the news today. And I hear the lady that was appointed as the U.S. Treasury spokesperson. They brought up some of the clips and tweets and things that she said before. And one of the things she says, the question you just asked, the Muslims are trying to force Sharia on the United States public. Okay, well, chapter 2, and I've read this verse many times before. Chapter 2, Cam, verse 256. God says in the Quran, La ikraha fid din. Let there be no force, no compulsion in the religion. Okay? So we don't force anything on anyone. Now let me read something to you to answer your question. Because I gave you the Quranic reference, chapter 2, verse 256. It is against Sharia itself. And Sharia, for you all who are listening and joining us for the first time, is Islamic law. Okay? It is against Sharia to impose Sharia on anyone. And it's from the Islamic scholar. So the American public, you have nothing to fear from us. It's against Sharia to force Sharia on you, or even to force Sharia on anyone. So I can't force Sharia. Ahmed is Muslim. Cam, you're Muslim. I'm Muslim. I can't force you to abide by the Sharia law. So if we can't enforce it or force you now, we can enforce it in Muslim societies because their system of laws is like, and as I read last week from chapter 5, verse 48, when you asked about what Sharia was, that God has given every nation every society laws to govern their society. And if we don't have laws, we have anarchy. That's the opposite of laws. The opposite of no order is chaos and anarchy. All right? So you have to have law. Translation to our friends in the Facebook audience and YouTube audience. Translation, L-A-W, Arabic word, Sharia. Sharia translation, law. So when you speak of law, the Arabic word is Sharia. If you say God, the Arabic word is Allah. You say law, the Arabic word is Sharia. It's language. So we already have in America Sharia. Laws. That's what it means. And nobody in America, if you think about it, they don't force a law in America. You just break it and you find out you broke it. Same thing in Islam. So let me continue reading. It is against Sharia to impose Sharia on anyone. Almost all the Sharia laws with which Muslim Americans deal with relates to personal, religious life, ethics, morality, and human relationships. Practicing Muslims live Sharia every day as they pray. So how do we know to stand up, make the call, stand to pray? This is part of Sharia. The number of sections and units in the prayer, that's a part of Sharia. The Jummah prayer, Friday prayer, which we will have to, that's a part of our Sharia. A code, a conduct of how we conduct ourselves. See, it's not just laws, do this, don't do this, don't. No. It's also your systems, your customs, how you do certain things. All that is under the Sharia. All right? How we pray, how we fast, how we eat, halal, permissible foods in Islam, how we practice charity, raise our families, serve communities. Sharia is like halacha, H-A-L-A-C-H-A, which is practiced by Jews in America. Now, I'm aware of this. Some Jews in America even operate Jewish courts in the U.S. called Beth Din. D-I-N, Din, faith, the house of law, the house of religion, Beth Din. Well, I'm not aware of any U.S. courts where we have a Sharia court. And the Jews are allowed to have Beth Din. They're allowed to have the Jewish court. Remember when you asked about liberty, and the first freedoms from last week was the freedom of religion. And our founding fathers in the Constitution say we will take no preference over any particular religion, I'm paraphrasing, in these United States of America. So who's complaining? I don't have any complaint that the Jews have Jewish courts. And their Jewish courts are based upon the Torah, Jewish law. Perfect. They have the right to do that. So if Muslims, and we don't now, and I'm not advocating it, because I already know it'll be a hoopla with us. So if we had Muslim courts, like Jewish courts, why should everybody be upset? Because first of all, the people who are not Muslims, and this is important for some of our Muslim brothers and sisters to understand. Muhammad the Prophet said, Cam, in the judgment day, Muslims will be judged by the Quran. Christians will be judged by the Bible. Jews will be judged by the Torah. So if there's a Sharia coming from the Quran, who is it applying to? Who would fall under it? Not the Christians, not the Jews, or the people that don't believe in our religion. It would be for us. And it is for us. So not only do we not trying to force it on anyone, it's not for them. It's for us. Yeah, no more than the Jewish Beth Din is for us here in these United States of America. Okay, let me continue reading. Muslim Americans do not operate any such courts. Let me conclude that statement. Muslim Americans, now this is important. Muslim Americans are subject to U.S. laws. Let's be clear on this now. We are all the citizens of the United States of America. Muslims are citizens of the United States of America. We are subject to U.S. laws just like any other citizen of this country. No Muslim has called for the replacement of the U.S. Constitution with Sharia. Sharia is neither a constitution nor is it all law. It is actually against Sharia, I read that earlier, to impose Sharia on anyone. Further, Sharia only applies to Muslims, not to non-Muslims. America's founding fathers were wise people. Today's Islamophobes, that's the name they use, they come up with this stuff, can learn a great deal from these founding fathers. In the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1796, between the United States and Tripoli, it states this: as the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, as it has in itself no character of enmity against the laws, religion of tranquility of Muslims. Now that is in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship in 1796 between the United States and Tripoli, Libya. That's how far back these relationships go. And I don't need to stress and emphasize, because I see them often in the news now, in a positive light. So some of it has been a little negative. But Saudi Arabia stays in the news now, in American news. And it's mainly positive. But that relationship between the United States of America and Saudi Arabia, Muslim country, 100% Muslim country, goes back decades. Way back in the early, 1940s, mid-1940s, with the discovery of oil. So the United States of America has always had and continue to have very good relationships and ties with Muslims all over the world. And none of the Muslims, and the people who have had these encounters will tell you, in the United States of America, you don't hear the well-informed now and the learned. It's usually the uninformed and emotional people. Oh, the Muslims are going to bring Sharia. No, Sharia does not apply to non-Muslims. So we have no effort to dear public of establishing Sharia in the United States of America. Okay, thank you so much for that question, Kim. And we have, well, Lizette, we won't get to you tonight, so we only have a couple of minutes left, and I know it's going to take a little longer to answer your question because we don't want to rush it. Now, did we get a question? Was that a question that we got? Now, any of you all in the audience now, before we conclude this tonight, you have, if you want to ask a quick question, we're still live, correct? We're still live. So if you all have any questions you want to ask, send the comments in right now. And if we can't get to it tonight, which we won't because we don't have the time, then post your question up in the comment section. I will see it, and inshallah, we say, God willing, next week we will address your question. So join us next week at the same time. We want to thank all of you around the United States of America and outside around the world for joining us on Al-Islam Worldwide Ministry Presents the Quran and the United States Constitution. This is part 2. We will continue next week, God willing, part 3 on the Quran and the Constitution. And we will be live. We will post this up on Facebook. Our YouTube channel is Al-Islam Worldwide Ministry. That's on YouTube. So you can actually go to YouTube, pull it up on your television, and watch the program. So we will be posting this program tonight on YouTube, and we also have uploaded some new content. So go to the YouTube, Al-Islam Worldwide Ministry. Join us tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Masjid Muhammad. That's a different Facebook page now. In Jacksonville, Florida, and Muhammad is spelled M-U-H-A-M-M-E-D. 1:30 p.m. live Eastern Standard Time. If you like our programs, we appeal to you all of the time. You can go to our website, alislamworldwideministry.com, tap on the menu button, click to donate, and you can contribute online, or you can mail contributions, Post Office Box 3024, Jacksonville, Florida 32206. Thank you all for joining us. We will close as we began with prayer. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Our Lord, grant us the best that this world has to offer us, and grant us the best that the next life has to offer us, and save us from the punishment of the fires of sins. Ameen. Thank you all very much. Peace be with you.